Hi, I'm Kim Coco. Tonight's 90-minute yin class is going to be sharing one of my personal favorites with you that I've been doing over the past few weeks. And I'm also working on some new mic issues, so we'll see how this goes, so bear with me. If you grab a blanket, bolster, you'll definitely need a block and a strap. So I recommend getting all that situated, get cozy, and go ahead and start on your back. And then once you get there, allow your hands to either rest down by the rib cage or take one hand to the heart and one hand to the belly. And begin to tune into the rhythm of your breath. Aware of how the events of your day have shifted your mentality, your breath, tension in the body. But don't change anything, just become an observer. Notice the weight of the backside of your body on the floor. Notice the back of the hips, the back of the shoulders, the back of the arms, the palms of the hands. And then starting with one of my favorite pranayamas, we'll use a viloma or split part breath to begin to transition into a more conscious state in this moment. So take your next inhale fully. Exhale it out. As you inhale next, take in a third of your breath and pause. Take in the next third of your breath and pause. Take in that final third of your breath and pause. And then exhale it all back out through the nose or the mouth. So as you inhale again, a third of your breath comes in. Pause. Second third. Pause. Top third. Pause, but let the body get heavy. And exhale it out. So go at your own pace, inhaling into 3 parts, exhaling completely. Just notice if you can use each pause to sink in a little more deeply into stillness. Becoming a little more present with the tissue of the body as gravity helps pull you to your mat. Go ahead and take 2 more rounds of this viloma breath. And then you can rest your arms by your side and let your body go back to breathing itself. Aware of any changes that may have taken place after just a few minutes of pranayama. You stretch your body long along the floor, reaching the arms up overhead and the legs out long. Gather any intention you have for your practice at this time, mental, physical, emotional. Seal it in with a deep inhale. Exhale it out through the mouth. Then go ahead and hug your knees in towards your chest. Maybe rock a little side to side. And we'll start with a gentle spinal twist. You can go ahead and maybe shift your hips an inch or two to the right before you drop your knees over to the left. And again, support the knees as you need to so both shoulders can remain on the floor. Maybe even lift and shift your torso that you can feel the collarbone broad, the back of the shoulder blades drop towards your mat. And play with the variation of your hands up if you want to receive more energy or nurturing or just a whole energetic hug perhaps. Maybe play with having the palms down if you want a sense of groundedness, connection, mental clarity. Notice what's going to feel good for your body. And for the practice, we'll start by focusing on some samavriti, meaning same length of breath, helping to sustain balance in our postures. So find a length of your inhale that matches the length of your exhale. And use that conscious attention to your breath to connect you to this moment, to how your body feels in this moment, and to the quality of your thoughts in this moment. Sure there's no extra tension at the head or neck, so maybe that means your neck and your head turn over to the left as opposed to up towards the ceiling or even over to the right, making this as comfortable as possible, with yin only going about 50 to 70% of your max capacity, since we're moving into deeper levels of the fascia, even around the joints. Take these last few rounds of breath here to sink in. Allow the hips, the shoulders, and the back of your head to get even heavier. You stay for your next exhale. Use that following in-breath to draw your knees back into center, reset your spine to neutral and maybe shift your hips a little bit to the left before dropping your knees over to the right second side. Again, checking in with how it first feels to move into this second side, maybe moving and shifting the hips a little bit more away from your left side ribs, left arm out to the side, palms up or down. Now taking your attention this time between the ribs on this whole left side. And noticing too that part of this area around the ribs is energetically associated with making decisions with confidence. So as you begin to rest here on the second side, notice where in your life you're already making decisions with confidence, where you feel a sense of ease and assurance and knowing. And bring those pictures to mind as vividly as possible, allowing those pictures to resonate down to every cell of your body through your breath. Again, make sure your head and neck is relaxed, your jaw is soft. Keeping that same rhythm of an inhale and an exhale flowing smoothly in and out the body. Continuing to breathe in that confidence and ease for your decision making with each breath. Still have a little over a minute here, so can you sink in a little bit deeper with your breath? about 3 more rounds of breath. Getting a little deeper if you can. Consciously connecting back to your breath. Using your inhale when you're done to come back to center. You can rock a little side to side. Move the knees in some circles. That feels good. Maybe rock and roll your way front to back. Maybe start to press yourself up to hands and knees. Maybe take a few rounds of cat-cow if that feels good to you. If you need a little bit of movement, that might be an option. Otherwise, if you want to stay more into stillness, we're going to take Uttanasana, your standing forward fold, for a few rounds of breath. So depending on how you feel today, knees can bend a lot or a little. You might even take a clasp with opposite elbows. But we're going to be here for a little over a minute. So let your head and neck hang heavy, as though you're going to spill any unnecessary worry or uncertainty out through the crown of your head and onto your yoga mat. Feel your weight rock from the heels toward the ball mount of each foot without scrunching up your toes. And once you find a little bit of ease through those adjustments, see if you can find some stillness. And even though you're in stillness, can you feel the inner arches of your feet lift slightly, the inseams of your pants drawing up towards your sitting bones so they can lightly lift and spread? Maybe switch your clasp, putting the other forearm on top. And then sinking back in again. Again, deepen the rhythm of your breath. Fill the ribs out to the sides with your inhale. Maybe even take an Ardha Uttanasana as you release your clasp and lengthen your spine. As you exhale, go ahead and fold back down. Walk your feet wider than hip distance apart, toes pointing out at 10 and 2 roughly. And then we're going to sink the hips down for a minute in Malasana. So starting to lift again the inner arches of the feet, press the knees out to the side, lift the heart. You can always place a roll underneath your heels if it's hard for your heels to reach the floor, or you can sit on a block or books, whatever you've got handy. But can you feel the hips sink down some? Can you feel a little bit of contraction between the elbows and your inner thighs? Can you feel a broadening across the collarbones as you sink the hips down, and maybe lightly close your eyes or find a point to gaze at? jaw soft and the throat open. Even find a light inner smile. Breathing down into all 4 areas of the rib cage. They move to the sides, the front, and the back. Even the slightly active and engaged pose, can you feel a sense of relaxation, a sense of unwinding in the tissue? Take 2 more rounds of breath here. I should say my rounds of breath, maybe not yours. Slow it down a little bit if you can. And then maybe as gracefully as you can, slowly release your clasp, come to sit on your rear end, take the feet out in front of you, a windshield wiper the knees to give the hips a little reprieve. Keep a light flex in the foot though to protect your knees. And then from here we'll move to one of my favorites. So we're going to take Dragon, which is a really nice opener for the front of the hip. So what I'd like you to do is take a nice low lunge. You can always prop up your back knee if you want some additional support. It's always nice to have some cushion. And then from here, you can actually come to stand on your knees with your hips over your back knees. We'll start with the right foot forward. And slowly we're going to drop the hips down toward the floor. Maybe even walk the foot a little bit to the right of your hip joint. Turn the toes out slightly. Your choice. You might even lift the back toes under, stretch the back knee a little bit further behind you so you can come onto the flesh of that left quadricep. And then you have a couple different options. You can use the block to bring the floor up to you. You can always take your hands down to the floor. You can take your forearms to your block. But again, we're looking for about 70%. Even if you have a chair, you can place a chair in front of you and use that leverage to give your upper body some support. But we're going to be here for 5 minutes on each side. So I'd like you to first focus on the anatomy of what's going on by feeling that right heel draw back in space some towards your hips, allowing that left knee to draw forward, moving that left hip slightly forward so you can feel the engagement up towards the groin. But then feel all 5 toes, whether they're tucked on the floor or the tops of the feet, feel it pressing down to give you some anchoring in the back body. Can you feel the shoulder blades melt down your back? And then can you feel a lightness on your right foot or your right toe? So you're actually pressing down beneath that right big toe, feeling both the inner and the outer edge of the foot engaged just slightly, enough to give you some support. And then can you feel gravity helping to draw the hips toward the floor? And then try to find a little bit of stillness here for this first minute or two. And then once we hit that halfway point, you might notice you want to go a little bit deeper, in which case you can sink in a little bit lower, or you might choose to stay where you're at. But if you notice that you get too intense in the posture, always back off. Find an easier place in which you can find an evenness of breath, a place to support yourself, a way to find some ease. Starting by making confident choices with how you approach your own practice in a way that adds more energy to your life energy account than detracts from it. Use this practice as a way to fill you up. And do so here by infiltrating your breath with a consciousness, a connection, a purpose. Finding an evenness of inhale to match your exhale. Make sure you can lightly check back in so that right heel moves slightly back in space without actually moving your foot. Allowing that left knee to move slightly forward without actually moving the knees so they hug in slightly. And again, you can choose to stay there, or you can go a little bit deeper. But find a point to gaze at, or at least feel the heart broad and let the head and neck drop if you're going to close your eyes. Melt the back of the shoulder blades down the spine. And again, remember to soften your throat and your jaw. Take about 3 more rounds of breath. Maybe even lengthening the breath in to a count of 5, 6, or 7. Matching the length of that breath out to 5, 6, or 7. When you're done with those rounds of breath, slowly and consciously coming back onto your hands if you've moved to your forearms. A couple different options for this next pose. You can slowly begin to move your hips back in space and straighten your front leg for an Ardha Hanumanasana, moving that left hip back and lengthening that right hamstring. If you want to go a little bit deeper to get into the right quadricep or the left quadricep a little bit more, you can bifurcate or split that left calf and come to sit down inside of your back heel, taking a Ardha Virasana. I'm using a blanket to help keep my hips level, and you might use a block to sit on if that's comfortable as well. So this becomes a nice stretch for the left quadricep. And so if you're going to go past Ardha Hanumanasana, you might even choose to sit upright here or hinge forward and fold, getting a nice stretch in the right hamstring as well. Noticing where the breath gets held, where you can find some ease as you settle in and feel both sitting bones level if they're on the ground or toward the ground. And then if you're in Ardha Hanumanasana, can you feel them moving evenly back in space? So this is a new time of the year, and I don't know if many of you are like me, where you notice certain things you want to change in your life, certain patterns, certain habits that you have. But this yin practice is something I've dedicated myself to for 30 days this month, because I really want to tap into the subtleties behind my actions. I want to look at why I have the habits I have And I want to invite a spirit of contemplation behind these decisions I'm making. So notice here as you breathe, not only will the body feel different simply because you're in a different posture, but can you allow the mind to open up with a curiosity about what's going on in your life, what choices and habits are supporting you, and where might you want to make some changes to add a sense of lightness or knowing or clarity. And as you invite in that clarity, can you feel the side body lengthen? Can you feel the shoulder blades still stay down away from the ears? And a sense of heaviness and relaxation in the head and neck. Allow yourself 3 more conscious rounds of breath here. Choosing your inhale to draw yourself back up. You might want to come onto your seat, bring the feet out in front of you. Maybe extend both legs, notice how they feel. Notice the difference right to left after such a short amount of time, or so few movements. And then when you're ready, we'll set it for the second side. So make sure you set up a blanket if you had it for the first side to support your back knee. Step the left foot forward this time, either all 5 toes pointing forward or slightly maybe moving the foot out an inch or 2 and turning the toes out to the side. But notice again the left hip drawing back in space and the right knee drawing forward. And then maybe sinking the hips down, using your block. Maybe tucking the back toes under to lift and spread through that back leg, dropping the back knee to the floor when you're ready. And then just take a few moments to kind of settle yourself in there. You knew where you were going, which sometimes is a nice thing, and sometimes it's not a nice thing. But staying with our theme of embracing confidence in the decisions that you're making, so you maintain a sense of empowerment throughout each moment. So set yourself up in a way that's going to support you for the long run. And in this case, it's a 5-minute hold in dragon, which is a little fiery in and of itself by name. So the left heel draws back, the right knee draws slightly forward without necessarily any movement. Make sure your front knee is pointing over your second toe on your front foot. Feel your tailbone still lightly pointing towards your back knee. And a broadness across the heart. melting between the shoulder blades. And again, finding a soft, neutral position for the neck with the gaze forward, or even keeping the broadness in the collarbones but letting the head and neck drop. Finding your Samavriti once again, matching inhale and exhale as your point of focus. You're already about halfway in, so decide to stay, decide to go deeper. Just listen to your body, honoring that this side might be very different than the first. Can you soften with every exhale for this last minute? Stay for your next exhale. And then use your following inhale to slowly start to move your hips back in space, straightening your front leg, hands to the block, or 2 blocks if you have them, or the floor, staying in Ardha Hanumanasana, or deciding if you're going to make your way back to Ardha Virasana, spreading that right calf, setting your hips up as you need to on blocks, the floor. Otherwise, sit maybe a little bit taller and lengthen your spine, or if you're in Ardha Hanumanasana, lengthen your belly button away from your pelvis, broadening across the front of the body, staying there, or exhaling, maybe hinging and folding forward in some way, shape, or form. Again, your round of breath is your point of focus. Being the observer as you help to find balance right to left in the body. Allowing a sense of grace into this practice. Maybe a different way of approaching that is allowing that balance to come to you, especially in the yin practice where we're not forcefully trying to make changes. We're finding a sense of stillness in each posture, allowing those changes to happen on a far more subtle level than a more vigorous yang-based practice. Continue to move the breath down to the lowest part of your ribs, the energetic connection with making decisions with confidence. Take another deep inhale here. And go ahead and exhale fully. Use your next in-breath to walk yourself back up. And then go ahead and make your way onto your back for Savasana and grab your strap. Or just so you have it handy at least. And then come onto your back. Again, letting yourself get cozy. Hands by your side. Absorbing the changes right to left. Then go ahead and grab your strap. A couple different options. We'll start on the right leg, so we're going to loop up the ball mount of that right foot to extend the right leg up towards the ceiling. And you have the option here of holding on to each side of the strap with one hand and using the pull of the structure of your bones, arms stacked, instead of having to overwork your biceps with bent elbows. You can stay here. If you want a little bit more restorative without having to necessarily hold on with your arms, you can actually take and make the loop really big in your strap, and then you can place that loop of the strap just behind the occiput of your head, so it's right behind the bone, And then you can use the leverage of your heavy head to help hold your leg up in space. And then you can get a little bit more comfortable there, perhaps. Find that spot that's just right. And then use that, again, that leverage of the strap to open up the right hamstring. And you've already been here for over almost a minute, actually. 35, 40 seconds. So can you find your position, sink back in, and seamlessly transition from one posture to the next, allowing just the movement to create a sensational awareness in the body, but only a slight ripple in the attention of your mind. Maybe keep a micro bend behind that right knee, or a deeper bend if you have tighter hamstrings today. Hamstrings can be a powerful force to help us move forward in our lives. But as you rest here, how can you enjoy some length in the hamstrings to move forward with deliberate purpose and perhaps graceful choices, or having a sense of grace and ease in our choices? As time passes here, maybe allow the back of the head to get even heavier on your strap if you have a loop. If you're holding on with each arm, can you feel the front of the shoulder drop towards the back of the shoulder? Shoulder blades moving towards the floor. Feeling a sense of length in the tailbone and the low back. We've got a few more rounds of deep, slow breathing. Go ahead and release the strap from behind your head if you have it, and take both parts of the strap into your right hand. Turn your right toes slightly over to the right shoulder, the right side of your room. We're going to open it up for a nice wide stretch. So you can allow your foot to rest on a block. You might allow your arm to lengthen so that you don't have to pull tremendously with your right hand, right arm. And then notice if you can feel a sense of heaviness in the left hip. So propping up underneath the right leg is needed. Settling right back to the rhythm of your breath. And you can have the left arm out to the side at shoulder height. You can bend at the elbow and externally rotate at the shoulder so that you can get a nice deep stretch. You can always take a nice wide V position or an extended angle so you have a nice long line of energy running up the left side of the body. But as you expose this underside of the left rib cage a little bit higher than the point we looked at earlier, it's all about welcoming change in your life. So again, a very appropriate time starting the new year. Can you breathe as imagining that whole side seam of your shirt about halfway down your ribs, maybe even an inch in or so. This whole area is associated with, again, welcoming changes in your life. So where are you already excited about some changes? Where are you enthusiastic about new avenues, new pathways, new relationships? And can you allow those pictures to become vivid in your mind's eye as you breathe into the whole left side rib cage, sinking the left hip down, and just as a byproduct of being here, allowing the right hip to open. Can you soften the grip on with your right hand on the strap for these last slow rounds of breath? When you're ready, taking that right leg back up towards the ceiling, pausing for a moment with the strap in both hands, reaching up to the inner and outer edge of that right foot. And then we'll actually go ahead and shift the hips over to the right slightly, maybe an inch or two, and we're going to drop the right foot across to the left. You can bend the knee and take a gentle spinal twist again. If you want to get into the outer hip, I recommend you stay. Move props out of your way as you need to. And then you can hold on with your strap, or you can reach for the foot. Usually we don't wear socks in yoga, but for yin sometimes that's okay when you want to stay warm. And again, finding a place that's going to feel good, moving that right hip down away from the right side ribs. Noticing how you switch sides here, and now breathe into that right side rib area that's welcoming changes in your life. And noticing what attributes you want to cultivate to welcome in those changes. Is that going to require some surrender, some courage, a sense of being open-minded, curious? What characteristics or attributes might you want to cultivate as you embrace change this year? And not even in the big picture this year, but in this month, in this week, in this practice right here on your mat. And then sink into those attributes with your breath. Highlight them. And instead of allowing the thoughts to run wild, can you return back to the feeling of what it would be like to embody those attributes? What it would feel like to embody curiosity, confidence, eagerness, whatever those attributes are, and invite those in with each breath. We've got about a minute left here on this side. So soften even the fingers, the back of the shoulder blades, the throat, the eye sockets behind your eyeballs. When you're ready to come out, we're going to slowly roll actually onto your left side. And you have a couple different options for this pose. The first would be to have a 90-degree angle at your knee joint, having the knee out about hip height, that right foot lightly flexed. And then you can stay here and start to feel that right hip bone turn towards the floor. You're always welcome to extend the right leg out long. That will make it more challenging. So just notice where you're at. Right knee bent, right leg straight, and resting here on the forearms if that feels comfortable. Noticing if you can feel gravity start to pull the right hip towards the floor and start to find an even weight on the forearms. If you have your block still handy, you can use it as a little kickstand for your head. Let's make sure I can see my clock. And again, we'll be here for another few minutes. So settle in as best you can. Allow the upper body to rest as much as possible as you allow a sense of balance to return to your hips. Add a little heavier if you can somewhere. Notice how sometimes certain things in life or in your practice seem easier than others. And can you be okay with being present without having to shift or move or change? Take another inhale here. Stay for the exhale. Slowly unwind onto your back, coming to Savasana once again. Maybe wiggling out the feet, Rocking the hips a little side to side, just noticing perhaps a very vivid difference right to left. Soak up the changes on the right side body. And when you're ready, grab your strap. Second side, your options are still the same. To either loop up the strap and hold on to each side of the strap with one arm. Straight arms, allowing that left hip to move a little bit further away from the left side ribs. If you want to play with the variation with the loop, the giant loop around your head, notice how this side might be very different. So you might want to loosen or tighten the strap accordingly. Take all the time you need to get there and feel comfortable. Even wiggle the shoulders down the back. Get comfortable. And then find, again, that left hip moving slightly away from the left side ribs so that left side body stays long. A micro bend behind your left hamstrings. And a sense of heaviness behind your head as it becomes the counterweight to open up the hamstrings on your left side as well as the hip flexor on the right. And instead of activating that right leg long like we often do in a more active class, can you allow the right leg to almost be in Savasana? So there's a looseness. The back side of the pelvis rests heavy on the floor. Notice how the length of your inhales and your exhales might have changed. And notice if they're still even in length with one another. Got over a little over a minute more here, so soften in. When you're ready, unwinding the strap from behind your head, or taking the strap, both parts of the strap, into your left hand this time. Even take your right hand and ground your left hip or your right hip towards the floor as you slowly begin to open up that left leg to the side. You might even start by taking the left foot a little closer towards your right so you can feel the hips a little more level, and then slowly draw the left foot closer to your shoulder. Again, the goal here is to keep the right hip heavy and support the left hip as you open the adductors all along the inner thigh. Finding an arm position that works for you. Breathe into any new sensations in the body. Just one of those easy phrases to remember is, where your attention goes, the energy flows. So it's amazing how even in a practice like this, where we're using the attention of our mind, we actually begin to shift the energetic patterns of the body, of our thoughts. So send your attention to where there might be tightness, and use your attention to flow energy and breath, prana, sense of spaciousness to those areas, allowing more energy to infiltrate any tightness or stuck energy. Can you use your attention to flow more energy back to the sides of the ribs with each breath? Can you use your attention to feel the body getting heavier towards the ground? Can you use your attention to welcome these changes in your body? Take another deep breath in. Stay for the exhale. Use your in-breath to draw that left leg back up towards the ceiling. Take a pause there to lengthen the inner and outer edge of the left foot. And then begin to shift your hips lightly to the left so that we can twist this left leg over across the right side of your body. And then you can do so by bending the left knee in towards your chest and twisting over. Or if you want to extend and place the left foot on a block, a prop, hold on with the strap. Again, moving props out of the way as necessary. Keeping your head turned in a way that's comfortable to support this part of your practice. Allowing the left shoulder blade to draw towards the floor. Feeling that spaciousness between the left hip and the left side ribs. And settling in as effortlessly as possible. Reigniting your positive attributes with your breath in this left side ribs. Where are you demonstrating those positive attributes in your life, such as strength, vitality, courage, curiosity, openness? Knowing that just by practicing those attributes, already you're paving the way to bring them into the new experiences of your life. Sink deeper for your last minute. deepen your inhale. Stay for the exhale. Slowly begin to roll over onto your belly, deciding if you want that left leg straight or bent. Either way, the knee, if it's bent, knee is about 90 degrees. Shin, thigh, 90-degree angle. You have the legs straight out. It could be up at hip height or it might be a little bit lower depending on your flexibility level. But no matter where you are, can you imagine that left hip getting heavier? Can you feel the left forearm getting heavier? Can you soften in for these last few moments? Use the connection with your breath as a way to make peace in this posture. Peace with where you're at right now. A peace that gives you the freedom to expand and launch forward with your life. Can you continue to feel both sides of the body long? The breath moving out to each side of the ribcage. All the while a sense of heaviness across the front of the pelvis. Shoulder blades down the back and the head heavy. Deepen your inhale. Extend your exhale. When you're ready, slowly begin to make your way onto your back. We're going to take our final relaxation here in Savasana. So if you get onto your back and you realize you need a happy baby, do you want to hug the knees in towards the chest, you want to rock a little side to side, whatever it's going to take to massage out the low back. Notice any differences right to left. Otherwise, once you get on your back, notice a shift in your hips. Sense of heaviness on the back side of the body. Taking a deep inhale once you get to your back, filling up as deeply as you can. Pausing at the top. Exhaling nose or mouth. So 2 more just like that, filling up deeply. Pausing once you get to the peak of inspiration. Exhale, let the breath go. Last time inhaling. Pause. Let it go. And then let your body find some stillness. And let the body breathe itself. Allowing these last few minutes to be a chance in which your body can absorb the changes of your practice, body, mind, and spirit. Stay longer if you'd like. Or begin some gentle movements at your fingers and your toes. Maybe take another long stretch with your body. Before drawing your knees into your chest and rolling over onto your left side, your yin side, your nurturing side. Before slowly making your way back to a seat with your eyes closed. Bring the hands together in front of your heart in Anjali Mudra. Thank yourself for your dedication to your practice, for nurturing yourself, body, mind, and spirit. Take a few more conscious breath cycles into the sides of the ribs. Reaffirming your dedication and your confidence in making decisions that support you, and embracing those positive attributes as you welcome changes in your life for this coming year. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me today. Namaste.